Hello, GovCon winners, and welcome back to my channel. So let's get into it. Termination, contract termination, sometimes also called failure to execute an option year. These are words, these are phrases you never, ever want to hear. And I'm here to help prevent you from going through that. So I have some quick tips for you to prevent losing a federal government contract. Think about it. To get into this space of federal government contracting, to be a prime, you must be registered in SAM. You must have a capability brief. There's a product or service that you're offering. You probably submitted a proposal in order to win an effort with the federal government. So losing it after going through all of those steps, oh my gosh, can be agonizing, frustrating, terrifying, and more. Here's our first tip for the day. That is, all my amazing GovCon winners, you must get into the family photos with your clients, hands down. As soon as a contract is awarded to you, doesn't matter if it's for paving a road, putting up a fence, providing lamps, providing trainers, providing IT specialists, providing computers, it does not matter what the thing is. Or if it's a person, people, place, or thing, doesn't matter. You need to, out the gate, get to know your client through emails, phone calls, and meetings. You need them to know you, who you are, what you do, what you offer, how you are there to make their lives easier. You need to know as much as possible about your government client that they're willing to tell you. Just in terms of personalities, some people are more open. They're going to tell you everything. There are others very closed off. They're very strict, straight to the point, stick to everything. That's fine too. But your objective is for them to really like you and trust you. So they see you as part of the family, because it's hard to fire your family. You may not go to that Thanksgiving event, but they're still your family. So this is important. Why? They're going to give you insider information. So let's say, for instance, you have a full-time equivalent in, let's say, like an administrative kind of role. Perhaps you have a 5-year contract. You're like ecstatic. This contract could even be $250,000 to almost $500,000, depending on the hours and how much you charged. So you don't want to lose this. You don't want to be blindsided. So potentially that agency can give you insider information, such as, are they looking to turn that position into a government role? For instance, that happened to my flagship company, Miami Garrison. We had one FTE in a position there, and we learned out the gate that they were taking that role and turning it into a government position. Okay, great. I know where we stand. I already know that this contract is for the period of performance, no more, no less. That's it. Was not blindsided. So going back to this admin example, you don't want to be blindsided. If you start to hear, hey, we're looking to maybe turn this into a government position, ask, well, what would that mean for this contract? Are there other opportunities? If, for instance, you no longer need this role, are there other roles that you need? Are there other departments within this agency that perhaps we could support? You want to really start planting those seeds early, not 5 days before the contract is supposed to end. Now let's take more of a construction type of example. Same thing applies. You want to know what is going on with the agency. Is there potentially another contract that's out there for construction that they're thinking of taking your work and putting it on there, or vice versa? Maybe they're thinking of taking some work from this other construction contract and putting it on your contract because they really like your services. Maybe they like your cost. Maybe you're more efficient at getting supplies. Who knows? In order for you to stay on top of things, to be in the know, you must get in the family photos. You must have ongoing touch points with your clients. If you don't, fine, you're a commodity. You don't want to be a commodity. You can be replaced. Bottled water, I love it. I adore it. Prefer if it's in glass, but hey, got to make things work when I'm here in Muskegon. Do I have a preference? No, I just need water. I just like it in a bottle because I'm going to drink more of it. Helps with my skin. How the government will see you. The same way I see a bottle of water, your commodity. You can easily be replaced. You don't want that. Get in the family photos. Next thing is you have to make sure you are actually executing the contract. Listen, I've had my moments where I didn't do this. So please don't think I'm like taking this kind of a role. I'm not. I have done this. There were a couple times where didn't execute the contract accordingly. And do you think they're ever going to ask us to do work with them again? Of course not. Of course not. They're not. It's all on me as the owner. It's my fault. I dropped the ball. I don't want that to happen to you. So here's what I mean. In your contract, now, sometimes for simplified acquisitions, you're not issued an elaborate like 20-page contract. So you may have to go back to some type of statement of work or an email. That's happened where a client said, hey, we want this type of training. Here's everything we want in email. Give me a price for it. We're going to issue this as a simplified acquisition. Okay. So regardless, if you have a huge contract, tons of documents, or something as basic as an email, you must ensure that you are aware of every single requirement that you are to adhere to. For instance, let's say on a training side, you owe student manuals, handouts, maybe a thumb drive or DVDs. Who knows? You have all of that. Perhaps you were informed that you need to bring the technology. You have that. Perhaps they already informed you there's no access to Wi-Fi. So if you need Wi-Fi, you bring a hotspot, or you use your mobile device. Who knows? But you take care of everything that's there listed under the requirements. The same thing goes if you're offering construction, if you're offering kind of staffing, some type of service, whether it's on the government site or off-site at your location. Every single thing. Some other examples are monthly reports, biweekly reports, finances. They're very particular about their invoices, and you want to make sure you ask them, how do you want your invoices? This is how we invoice. Here's an example. Does this work for you? How do I know this? Because I came across a person who owns a government contracting company, and they received a cure notice, which is something you never want, from the military. And in that cure notice, it talked about how they didn't invoice them properly. A cure notice is basically like a letter home from the principal, except for instead of it being the principal, it's the federal government. And they outline everything you're doing wrong. You don't want that. I have to tell you this, I've never received one of those in my entire life. I have examples, maybe I'll show one later, but point is, yes, they care about your invoices, right? So every single thing, if it says, for instance, that your team must go through training, be proactive, talk to them about it, not only during the kickoff, maybe every month. I found with some of our clients, trainings will just pop up. I have to take the trainings because I own the company. All of a sudden I get an email, hey, you have to take this training. Thankfully, my team is on top of it and they've alerted me before I receive the email. But the point is, the trainings sometimes pop up because often that's the point of training, right? Is something may happen that triggers a training event. So you want to make sure you're also on top of training. Any type of deliverable, make sure you're on it, especially if you're in like moving, transportation, portable showers, construction. When you're really in something where it's so like visual, like somebody can really see it, make sure you're delivering it according to the requirement. You're taking photos, you're having videos. So no one can ever say, hey, we ordered 5 showers from you, but the guys are saying that they only received 4. This kind of stuff happens all of the time. Why? Because stuff just happens. This is why you got to cover yourself. And for those of you that may be in a space where it's not so visual, you have to make sure you still have accountability, which could come in the form of a weekly report, daily check-ins. It could come in with milestones, timeline, your project plan. For instance, we use Monday often for project management. Sometimes we'll use Microsoft Project if that's what a client wants us to use. But what is important is that you're able to show them, here's your requirement, here's what we've done, awesome. And not when they call you to the carpet. You want to make sure you're doing this the same time that you're getting in the family photos. These are not separate things. They all come together to ensure you don't have a contract that's canceled or option years that aren't executed. So during your check-ins with the client is when you mention things, you share photos, or you ask them, hey, did you want to talk to one of the team members? I mean, depending on the setup of your contract, of course. But what's key is they always need to be in the know all the time. Must be in the know. The next surefire way that you won't have a contract terminated. And this is a surefire way. If you violate this, you will have a contract terminated. Just letting you know that. This is for all of you out there who are interested in the staffing space, meaning that you're providing a human being to provide some type of service to the federal government, whether they're at the government's location or they're at your site. And at your site could mean working from home or from a hotel room, right? You must always have a backup for this person. You must. Doesn't matter if they have a huge, horrible life event happen to them. Doesn't matter how horrible, how tragic. You must always have a backup, because the federal government, they're providing you monies to cover this amazing employee, team member, this person. And if the person can no longer do the work, how's the work going to get done? I understand in a non-government contracting work environment, others may pick up the slack per se, or an organization may overlook it because they're undergoing this horrible life event or life experience. Got it. But in the federal government, it's this hole that's now getting bigger because they had a hole, and that's why they brought in contractors to help them fill that hole. And if you have a team member or team members who are unable to work because of things going on, that's something you and me as entrepreneurs, we have to handle on the business side, but you also must staff, you must backfill that position so that the client is taken care of. If you decide not to do that and you come with, well, but see, they are going through, and so I'm trying to do the best that I can, but they're undergoing, it's a losing battle. And what's going to happen is they're either going to cancel your contract, they're going to remove the full-time equivalent from your contract, and or they're not going to exercise any additional option years with you. Or they could look into ways to taking that work and putting it on somebody else's contract. And they may even tell you to your face, that's okay, we understand. We'll have some other people in the office just do the work. Lies. I'm not implying the government employees are liars. I'm not implying that everybody lies. I'm implying in that scenario I just said, they were lying. That's what I'm saying to you. Why? Because you have to go back to the reason we're here. We are here to fulfill a need. We're not all here working for Google or YouTube. I mean, it's owned by Google. That's not it. So your goal as the contractor is to take care of the work that you were awarded. That's what you got to do. And I get it. It's hard. It's hard because you have a team member going through something, going through a crisis, and you're going to have to figure out what to do. And maybe you're like, well, I don't have enough money to take care of this team member and pay somebody else to fill the position. Well, you know what that's called? The cost of doing business. Yeah, it's a business expense. It is. But this is one that will get you. My very first multi-million-dollar 8A set aside was the result of an existing vendor who was not performing. I don't know what happened. All I know is that a different company had the work. I responded to an opportunity that was listed in the forecast. I was then invited for an in-person capability brief, and this agency interviewed or had, I think, 4 companies brief them, and they chose my flagship company. So really ponder that. Federal government had a vendor providing multi-million-dollar services. The vendor did who knows what, maybe one of these things I've mentioned, maybe something else. Got to the point where the government not only didn't execute any option years with them, but they totally removed them. Because sometimes they may say, well, we're not going to exercise any option years, but maybe there's some other work. You know, I got it. You know, especially if they decide to take a position and turn it into a full-time role. But this was not it. They said deuces to them. That's how extreme it is. And there are thousands of other companies ready to take your place. Happens all the time. My situation is not unique. Putting your people first and putting people first. This will ensure that you don't lose your work. Typically with the federal government, you have people who are involved in what you're providing. Even if you're having something shipped, There's still someone receiving it. What's vital is you need to take care of your people as well as taking care of the government people who are involved. I don't mean giving them tickets to sporting events and sending them gold-plated gifts. I mean, checking in, saying hello, pleasantries, displaying kindness, like, attending events if they open them up to you as a contractor. Why? Because too often, and I really experienced this in my early days when I was really starting out and had no clue about government contracting, I saw a lot of conflict. There would be conflict between the government side, military, government employee, and government contractors or interns. The government also brings on interns, whether they're interns through a government contracting firm or interns through that particular agency's intern program. And I would see conflict. I mean, to the point where people almost went to blows. I've experienced some things, right? And so imagine a federal government agency has put money on contract to make, for some agency to, some organization to make their life easier. And you're not doing that. You're a pain. You're not getting along with the government people, or the government people are questioning things about you or about your performance or about your service or about your construction or about your moving, about the computer parts. That is a recipe for disaster. You will lose your work. You don't want that. Doesn't mean you have to kiss their butt. I'm not saying that either. What you have to do is make sure at all times that you are providing the services and products that you are to provide. You need to make sure you have some type of lead person who's checking in with your team members or at the job site, or taking photos and videos of the move that's going on, as well as whether it's you or someone else on your team checking in with the government agency, because you need a quality review process to ensure that everything is operating the way that it should be. Because what you never want to hear is, Sandra and Thomas, they don't get along. I think you're going to need to let go of Thomas. I've had these kind of conversations many a times, especially in my early days. Don't have those conversations anymore because I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. And so the root was just workplace disagreements. It happens. We've all been there. I know you can definitely relate. Where you're in a work environment, a couple people just don't get along for whatever reason. The only difference is we're now talking about client, government contractor. Government always supersedes government contractor. So you need to make sure you stay on top of it, or if something does come up, you hear of something, that you quickly act to resolve it. Be it you coach the person that is involved in the situation, you do replace them, you have to do something. Because if you respond with, well, but Thomas has been with me for 20 years, he's perfect, good luck. Please give me that contract number so we can bid on it and take that work from you. I mean, I say this with so much love behind, the little remarks, because I've been there. I had it happen. I didn't pay attention. And one of my employees did not get along with the government person, and they removed that FTE, hundreds of thousands of dollars, gone overnight. Yeah, it's real. The other piece to this, perception is reality. In my early days, you could see the parking lot from pretty much the whole peripheral of the building at the Air Force Base. And at this location, people really took pride and notice of whose car is in the parking lot. Because if your car is in the parking lot, that means you must be working, right? Because you can only work if your car is in the parking lot and you're sitting at your desk. God forbid, if you're at a coffee shop or at your house, you're not working, you're on you're on like Snapchat or Instagram, TikTok, you're shopping, but car, parking lot, in your cubicle, you're working. Some started to notice. And when I say some, I mean government employees, military and non-military. A lot of cars were gone after like 11:30, because at this particular organization, they tended to eat lunch early, like at 11, which made sense because maybe they're in the office at 6:30, 7 in the morning. So 11 o'clock, you're hungry, right? But the cars wouldn't come back. Or if they did come back, it was maybe at 1 or 2, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2. You're taking a 2-3 hour lunch? I don't think that was in the contract. I don't know though. Maybe it was. So all these grumblings started. Where are all these contractors? Why aren't these contractors here? Where are these contractors? I see their cars are not there in the parking lot. They must not be working. Perception becomes reality. I have no idea what was going on. I have no idea. I wasn't part of that. I had my little subcontract and I was going about my own business. But what I do know is that prime contractor doesn't have the same amount of work that they used to. I know it became such a thing that is brought up all the time. You know, don't take long lunches, make sure that your car is visible. I mean, it's crazy because when you think about it, that means people knew what people drove, right? That's how far this went. I don't recall the exact number of people in that building, but I thought there were like 100. Perception becomes reality. Those contractors could have had some kind of arrangement where they worked virtually the rest of the day. Who knows? Maybe they're only part-time equivalent. Who knows? Perception becomes reality. On the government side, they were not working. So you want to really make sure that you have this presence of working, making their lives easier. It's super duper important. There was a time when one of my employees she was probably bragging about going to these like training conferences or something of that nature. And my client reprimanded me. He said, you know, please ask that she doesn't talk about those things because it's making the government employees jealous because they're not going to those kinds of things. And I get it. I can already tell what some of y'all are already thinking. Perception is reality. Why is this contractor going to all these events? Is that in the contract? Are they paid to do that? Because I thought that I was under the impression they were here to help me with curriculum development, but apparently they're going, you know, to a conference every single month. Can I go to a conference? Is that included in my benefits package as a GS-13? I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. Perceptions become reality. So you must be cautious because we fill in the gaps. We fill them in. And often how people fill them in is they must not be working. So you got to change it to the best of your ability. Okay. So vital all of the time. You are there to make their lives easier. You are there to execute the contract. It must be clear. It must be solid. It must be so bright and obvious that they view you as irreplaceable. That's what you want. This is another item to avoid. So you do not lose your contract, have it terminated, option year, not exercised. And that is do anything that is against government contracting policy, laws, rules, and regulations. So for instance, let's say you are not service disabled, but you partner with a service disabled veteran-owned small business so you can win the work. Maybe you give them a cut, like a finder's fee, and you end up doing all the work. Be careful because that's kind of illegal. So it happens. I've heard about it. I'm very well aware of it. There was a time and place, especially maybe a couple years into my 8A, so many people popped up. It was often men. I'm just saying, it's not a ding against men, so please don't come for me. It was largely men. They're like, hey, you know, I want to buy your business or I want to partner with you. And I had no idea. I was like, what? I was so naive. It's because they understood the value of the 8A. But the conversation was never about 51-49 or 50-50 or any kind of split. It was more about give me. Don't do anything that goes against the rules of government contracting. That also includes travel. There are some easy ways to scam travel with the federal government. There truly are. I've witnessed organizations that do some ridiculous things with travel. And if one gets caught, you will lose your contract because you're committing a crime. And what I mean by ridiculous things, for example, typically if it's under, I believe, $75, you don't have to show a receipt. So there are ways that people will really leverage that to bring in more money. We had a client who I'm so grateful for because she really taught us how to really maximize contracts and how to really partner with a government agency. And her sacred item in life as a government employee was travel. She didn't care if it was 10 cents. She wanted a receipt. And she would say it. I know this is not the requirement, but I want this. We did it. That's another surefire way not to have a contract. If we would have responded with, well, I don't care, that's not what's required, I'm going to go tell my contracting officer. Okay, who's going to want to work with somebody like that? No one. So to this day, we practice that. But just, there's a lot, the $75 rule, just adding fees to travel without having them approved or without putting that in your proposal that you were going to add a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% admin fee to process travel. I'm not saying you can't add a fee, but you got to ask for permission, not forgiveness, right? And there are some opportunities I've come across where it blatantly states you cannot add a fee. So these are things just to be aware of because they will lead to you losing your work. Another way that you can really prevent termination, make sure you pay your taxes, all of your IRS taxes, because you do not want to be in that position where you're not paying your taxes. That will come up and that could be a reason that they could terminate your work. You don't want that to happen. And for anyone who's watching, who's involved in work at a secret, top secret level, all I can say is please adhere to all those rules. If something comes up, one of your employees gets arrested and you don't report it or other things occur, be careful because there's always somebody else waiting. There's always somebody else willing to take on the work that you have, always. Have you ever heard, read, breaking news, federal government has experienced a shortage of government contractors. They are unable to award millions of dollars in federal government contracts. We need more contractors. Please, where are you? Please apply today. I can't say I have. I can't. I mean, hey, look, maybe that news hasn't traveled to Miami Beach. I don't know, y'all. I have never heard that, ever. There's always somebody. But y'all are amazing GovCon winners. That's not going to happen to you. It's not at all, because you're not going to do these things. You're going to make their life easier. You're going to keep in contact. You're going to get in those family photos. You're not going to do anything illegal. You're going to make sure the work is done. You are going to get the full 5 years, have them refer you out, have this ongoing revenue because you are about them. When you are about them meaning and being your government clients, your employees, your vendors, when you are about other people than yourself, it's blessings on blessings on blessings, y'all. Please subscribe, hit that notification button, comment below. Y'all are amazing. And thank you so much for supporting me. Check out profitablecontracts.co whenever you get a chance. And don't forget, everything is possible.